Ultimately, global leadership requires us to see the world as it is, with all its danger and uncertainty. We have to be prepared for the worst, prepared for every contingency. But American leadership also requires us to see the world as it should be, a place where the aspirations of individual human beings really matters, where hopes and not just fears govern. Where the truths written into our founding documents can steer the currents of history in a direction of justice. And we cannot do that without you. Class of 2014, you have taken this time to prepare on the quiet banks of the Hudson. You leave this place to carry forward a legacy that no other military in human history can claim. You do so as part of a team that extends beyond your units or even our armed forces. For in the course of your service you will work as a team with diplomats and development experts. You'll get to know allies and train partners. And you will embody what it means for America to lead the world. Next week, I will go to Normandy to honor the men who stormed the beaches there. And while it's hard for many Americans to comprehend the courage and sense of duty that guided those who boarded small ships, it's familiar to you. At West Point, you define what it means to be a patriot. Three years ago, Gavin White graduated from this academy. He then served in Afghanistan. Like the soldiers who came before him. Gavin was in a foreign land, helping people he'd never met. Putting himself in harm's way for the sake of his community and his family, of the folks back home. Gavin lost one of his legs in an attack. I met him last year at Walter Reed. He was wounded. But just as determined as the day that he arrived here at West Point, and he developed a simple goal. Today, his sister Morgan will graduate. And true to his promise, Gavin will be there to stand and exchange salutes with her. We have been through a long season of war. We have faced trials that were not foreseen, and we've seen divisions about how to move forward. But there is something in Gavin's character. There is something in the American character that will always triumph. Leaving here, you carry with you the respect of your fellow citizens. You will represent a nation with history and hope on our side. Your charge, now, is not only to protect our country, but to do what is right and just. May God bless you. May God bless our men and women in uniform. And may God bless the United States of America. Barack Obama. Press conference on USSC ruling in U. SV Texas. Delivered June 23, 2016, White House, Washington, D. C. Good morning, everybody. I wanted to say a few words on two of the cases the Supreme Court spoke on today. First, in the affirmative action case, I'm pleased that the Supreme Court upheld the basic notion that diversity is an important value in our society. and that this country should provide a high-quality education to all our young people, regardless of their background. We are not a country that guarantees equal outcomes. But we do strive to provide an equal shot to everybody. And that's what was upheld today. Second, one of the reasons why America is such a diverse and inclusive nation is because we're a nation of immigrants. Our founders conceived of this country as a refuge for the world. And for more than 2 centuries. Welcoming wave after wave of immigrants has kept us youthful and dynamic and entrepreneurial. It has shaped our character, and it has made us stronger. But for more than 2 decades now, our immigration system, everybody acknowledges, has been broken. And the fact that the Supreme Court wasn't able to issue a decision today doesn't just set the system back even further. It takes us further from the country that we aspire to be. Just to lay out some basic facts that sometimes get lost in what can be an emotional debate. Since I took office, we've deployed more border agents and technology to our southern border than ever before. That has helped cut illegal border crossings to their lowest levels since the 1970s. It should have paved the way for comprehensive immigration reform. And, in fact, as many of you know, it almost did. Nearly 70 Democrats and Republicans in the Senate came together to pass a smart, common-sense bill that would have doubled the Border Patrol, and offered undocumented immigrants a pathway to earn citizenship if they paid a fine, paid their taxes, and played by the rules. Unfortunately, Republicans in the House of Representatives refused to allow a simple yes or no vote on that bill. So I was left with little choice but to take steps within my existing authority to make our immigration system smarter, fairer, and more just. Four years ago, we announced that those who are our lowest priorities for enforcement diligent. Patriotic young dreamers who grew up pledging allegiance to our flag. Should be able to apply to work here and study here and pay their taxes here. More than 730,000 lives have been changed as a result. These are students, their teachers, their doctors, their lawyers. They're Americans in every way but on paper. And fortunately, today's decision does not affect this policy. It does not affect the existing dreamers. Two years ago, we announced a similar, expanded approach for others who are also low priorities for enforcement. We said that if you've been in America for more than 5 years, with children who are American citizens or legal residents, then you, too, can come forward. Get right with the law, and work in this country temporarily, without fear of deportation. Both were the kinds of actions taken by Republican and Democratic presidents over the past half-century. Neither granted anybody a free pass. All they did was focus our enforcement. Resources which are necessarily limited on the highest priorities, convicted criminals. Recent border crossers, and threats to our national security. Now, as disappointing as it was to be challenged for taking the kind of actions that other administrations have taken, the country was looking to the Supreme Court to resolve the important legal questions raised in this case. Today, the Supreme Court was unable to reach a decision. This is part of the consequence of the Republican failure so far to give a fair hearing to Mr. Merrick Garland, my nominee to the Supreme Court. It means that the expanded set of common-sense deferred action policies, the ones that I announced too, years ago, can't go forward at this stage, until there is a ninth justice on the court to break the tie. I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed today, but it is important to understand what today means. The deferred action policy that has been in place for the last 4 years is not affected by this ruling. Enforcement priorities developed by my administration are not affected by this ruling. This means that the people who might have benefited from the expanded deferred action policies long term, residents raising children who are Americans or legal residents, they will remain low priorities for enforcement. As long as you have not committed a crime, our limited immigration enforcement resources are not focused on you. But today's decision is frustrating to those who seek to grow our economy and bring irrationality to our immigration system. And to allow people to come out of the shadows and lift this perpetual cloud on them. I think it is heartbreaking for the millions of immigrants who've made their lives here. Who've raised families here, who hoped for the opportunity to work, pay taxes. serve in our military, and more fully contribute to this country we all love in an open way. So where do we go from here? Most Americans, including business leaders, faith leaders, and law enforcement, Democrats and Republicans and independents, still agree that the single best way to solve this problem is by working together to pass common sense, bipartisan immigration reform. That is obviously not going to happen during the remainder of this Congress. We don't have is a Congress that agrees with us on this. Nor do we have a Congress that's willing to do even its most basic of jobs under the Constitution. Which is to consider nominations. Republicans in Congress currently are willfully preventing the Supreme Court from being fully staffed and functioning as our founders intended. And today's situation underscores the degree to which the court is not able to function the way it's supposed to. The court's inability to reach a decision in this case is a very clear. Reminder of why it's so important for the Supreme Court to have a full bench. For more than 40 years, there's been an average of just over 2 months between a nomination and a hearing. I nominated Judge Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court more than 3 months ago. But most Republicans so far refuse to even meet with him. They are allowing partisan politics to jeopardize something as fundamental as the impartiality and integrity of our justice system. And America should not let it stand.